Yes, The Last Duel is a true story. Here's what's historical fact and fiction. Spoiler alert, the following story includes detail from the historical account behind the new film The Last Duel and narrative twists specific to the film. Eric Jager 2004 book, The Last Duel, a true story told by combat in medieval France. Case of true female screen non-fiction, catalogs and games of France's last government-sanctioned trial by combat. With the script using actual lines and passages from his writing, the filmmakers did make some alterations in order to better shine the light on the concepts of consent and perspective. As interested in, as much as illuminating the fact that the vestiges of the sexism and misogyny of the patriarchy we live with now come from a place that was Western civilization's codified value system. Still, The Last Duel does stick closely to historical fact. Jager counts the film as the last duel, noting that while evidence may not exist for specific moments, there is a general record that supports the recreation. Even the characters' haircuts, which have been the butt of some online jokes, match up with what we know about the period, according to Jager. We don't have transcripts or historical records that say that on the other day, Marguerite was doing this or something of that nature, but that's completely consistent with what such women did. The author confirms, women of that status, on these feudal estates, were in charge of a lot of things, especially when their husbands were away at war or on important business. I would call that historically accurate, even though we don't have direct testimony that Marguerite did this or did at the time. Affleck, Damon, Collison, Homer and Jager talked about through what is and isn't accurate in The Last Duel and why the filmmakers made the narrative changes they did. The historical record tends to favor men, so not much is known about the real Marguerite beyond her family's legacy and her role leading up to the duel. That meant that Holofcener had to create Marguerite's world and inner life from scratch. We gathered from research that she was really capable and educated, Holofcener said. We gathered from research that she was really capable and educated. There was one painting of her that, over time, was completely worn out, just because of timing and everything else. It was just the bare minimum description of who she was. That was really sad. But what's so amazing about Nicole and what Nicole has brought to the piece is this sense of imagination, really embracing the kind of freedom that gave her. We knew who this woman was generally by the way she spoke out and the time in which she was living in. Holofcener adhered to historical fact in terms of how Marguerite spoke, what she did and how she behaved, but the rest is a dramatization. Comer brought the sense of history into her performance as well, recognizing what was and wasn't acceptable for him at the time. When you're doing scenes where you really want to fight back with carriages and tell him what it is you really think, you have to go, hang on a minute, would she do this? Comer recalls. When you're doing scenes where you really want to fight back with carriages and tell him what it is you really think, you have to go, hang on a minute, would she do this? The greatest departure from Jager's book comes during the rape itself. According to court documents and testimony, the three accomplices, Adam Louvel, Adam while the film's version, which only involves imagery, is brutal to watch, the reality was far rougher, leaving Marguerite with tangible marks of the crime. The screenwriters changed the scene to allow for more nuance. Ultimately, that would have been a movie about a courtroom evidence drama, Affleck explains. Lie. I couldn't have gotten there. I would have had to have taken this many horses, and I didn't have time to get back. It would have become about whether or not it could have been him, or it must have been somebody else. It was the equivalent of a kind of forensics case. Damn it. It was the case about one very evil man doing something everybody recognized was evil. Rather than this idea of somebody, with a lens of their own experience and acculturation, not understanding their behavior, not understanding the effect they were having on someone else, which, to us, was more interesting and, to us, ultimately made it more about an examination of an entire system that was assaulting this woman from the moment she was born. From a practical perspective, pulling back on the brutality of the moment was also essential for simply getting the audience to sit through the scene. By taking away the witness and some challenging details, like the grease stuffing his hat into Marguerite's mouth, the filmmakers were able to more fully explore the notion that Legris believed his actions were just. In the book, Legris say he was in love with her, Holofcener says. In the book, Legris say he was in love with her. Reconstructing the historic duel. Adam Driver and Matt Damon armor on horseback in the Last Duel. Adam Driver, and Jacques Legris, and Matt Damon, and Jean de Carouges, face off in the Last Duel. Patrick Redmond, 20th Century Studios. In Jaeger's book, the detailed description of the duel between Legris and Carouges, held on December 29, 1386, was drawn from several sources. The film's version of the brutal fight is a more cinematic variation on what Jaeger reconstructed in his book, but it's reasonably close to what may have transpired. There were 3 chroniclers who gave detailed accounts of the sword phase of the fight, and they have slightly different accounts of how Carouges managed to get Legris on the ground, Jaeger says. There were 3 chroniclers who gave detailed accounts of the sword phase of the fight, and they have slightly different accounts of how Carouges managed to get Legris on the ground. In reality, the duel would have been decided by 2 main factors, the weight of the fighter's armor and how quickly these relatively old men retired. Ultimately, Carouges' victory was a result of Legris being literally unable to get up. Scott and the film's stunt coordinator used the outline of the actual combat to create something slightly more exciting for the screen. Jaeger does a pretty meticulous description of it, but it's a decidedly uncinematic duel, Damon notes. Just in what they were wearing, we would have looked like 2 tin cans, which we talked about, but it just became so absurd. Affleck adds, it hinged on the weight on the armor and the fact that once you fell, you couldn't get up and you were like a trapped lobster. We gave it rhythm. This is what took place. Because it was such a famous event, there was a record. We gave this great filmmaker the opportunity to dramatize the essence of it and make it come to an audience, rather than do literally what happened. Driver's final line, where, as Legris, he declares his innocence, is an historic record. Damon and Affleck took the dialogue directly from Jaeger's book. It's a moment that underscores the timely nature of the film's message, that we cannot be blind to the perspectives of others. Does he truly believe his innocence at the end? Asserting the truth. Jodie Comer on horseback as Marguerite de Carouges in the Last Duel. Jodie Comer as Marguerite de Carouges in the Last Duel. Patrick Redmond, 20th Century Studios. The final chapter of the film, told from Marguerite's perspective, refers to itself as the truth. But while that section of the story by necessity contains the most dramatization, Jaeger says he does support the filmmaker's conclusion. From an absolute philosophical point of view, nobody but Jacques Legris and Marguerite and those who are in the room know the truth, Jaeger says. From an absolute philosophical point of view, nobody but Jacques Legris and Marguerite and those who are in the room know the truth. Comer agrees. For me, why would a woman speak out and say this when her life was at risk? speak out and say this when her life is at risk. For Athletic Daniel, The Last Duel was an opportunity to not only depict a compelling historical event but to reflect on how traces of that system of patriarchy linger today. By unequivocally believing Marguerite, the screenwriters offer the same sense of empathy to all women who follow her. It is incumbent on us to be good people, to overcome it and to see more broadly and with empathy, Affleck said. It is incumbent on us to be good people, to overcome it and to see more broadly and